I love hunting late muzzleloader seasons. It gives you a chance to get back there and hunt food sources again.
That season normally stretches past Christmas and the holidays, and it's a really neat time to be out in the woods.
It's post-rut, we're going into winter. It's all about putting on some groceries again. These deer need to feed.
This is where it all begins.
My best hunting day ever. This is Deer and Deer Hunting TV. So most states have what they call traditional muzzleloader seasons, and these stretch out past Christmas and the holidays. It's late in the year, and the hunting can be tough, but what's nice about the muzzleloader seasons normally is there's not a lot of guys and gals out there. You know, it usually attracts a small amount of people, and things normally are coming kind of back to circle with the deer herd. Deer have been through the rut, you know, post-rut, and now they're looking to pack on some calories.
Basically, you're going to camp out on food sources. And really, muzzleloader hunts, when you think about it, they're not really an archery hunt, they're not really a rifle hunt, there's something in between. But I approach them more like an archery hunt. I figure I've got one shot at moderate range and I need to make that shot count.
It's number one, a lot fewer hunters in the woods. You get to a state like Wisconsin, where I'm from, regular gun season, you're looking at 600,000–700,000 people in the woods. You get to muzzleloader season, there's just a handful of guys and gals out there. That's really cool. The next thing that's different about muzzleloader season is how deer behave.
You really have a very small window of opportunity. It's really counterproductive to hunt in the morning, because think about it. Deer are on the food sources. All you're going to do is bump them off those food sources in the morning. That means you're going to ruin your morning stand and quite possibly ruin your afternoon stand.
So you're going to have different movement patterns with whitetails. Travel corridors, hot spots for November, regular firearm seasons. You get to muzzleloader season, it's a different game. You know, these deer are looking forward to winter and they're trying to pack on the calories. So food sources oftentimes are a critical component of any muzzleloader season.
When you're hunting late seasons, you really need to prepare for all kinds of different weather conditions. And that means layering your clothing. You need to have lots of layers so that you can put on extra layers and shed layers as the temperatures change and as your activity level changes.
Lately, it seems, a lot of these late season hunts, we have just an unexpected warm spell. So how am I going to approach that from a hunting standpoint and also from a deer behavior standpoint? So from a clothing standpoint, obviously dress in layers, just like I am today. You know, you have under layers, you have outer layers, something that you can take off to keep yourself regulated so you can stay out and you can hunt harder and you can hunt longer. Second, and probably most important, is knowing deer behavior and how deer behave when weather warms up. Unlike us, a deer doesn't sweat. So a deer has this thick hair. We call it the fur factor. They're going to start laboring a little bit more. It's going to make it more difficult for them to move around because they're going to be a little bit more uncomfortable.
And studies show that a light amount of rain really has very little effect on deer movement. So if it's raining a little bit, I welcome it. I like to get out there and hunt when it's raining.
Deer activity often is better when it's sloppier outside, especially wet weather. It's not a scourge. Pouring rain, yeah, nobody wants to do that. But light rain, really a good time to see deer out and moving.
Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Scent Killer Gold with Hunt Dry Technology Plus. Apply it, try it, and go hunt. Remington, America's oldest gunmaker. Get armed and deadly with Easton FMJ arrows. And by 10-Point Crossbow Technologies. There is no substitute. We're off to Iowa when we return. This segment of Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Redneck Blinds.
I've been pretending to be Matt Harper's friend for a long time, just so I'd have access to hunting Iowa.
I tried to put them in really awful stands.
Actually, Matt and I go back probably 20 years, industry friends, and then we became close friends through our association. It's 50 degrees and we're going deer hunting. Iowa, what is it? 2 days after Christmas, not exactly what we were hoping for, but as it always does, the weather is going to change next couple days. We're hoping for cooler temps, maybe even a little dash of snow. Now when you go to Iowa to hunt the late muzzleloader season, you're expecting to freeze your butt off, and the colder the better, because you know deer activity is going to be heightened by those conditions. And here we were going to have balmy conditions for the next couple of days.
We had another guy hunting with us when Gordy was here. His name's Bart Lansberg. He's been a friend of mine and of Gordy's, also in the industry for many, many years.
And when you've got an invitation to hunt Iowa, you put everything else on hold. Weddings, funerals, graduations, I don't care. You just go to Iowa when you have a chance.
You have to wait several years in order to be able to draw a tag. Typically, if you're out-of-state hunter, it's going to be 5-6 years probably before you're going to draw a tag, unless you get lucky.
I was really pumped to get back out to the area where Matt was going to drop us off. It's a place he calls Barney's. It's a shared property between he and his dad. It's got this just gnarly cover to the south end of the property where the deer like to bed, and then there's a lot of good food sources there. This late season muzzleloader hunt, it almost feels like a gentleman's hunt, because you don't have to get up at those crazy early hours, because it's counterproductive. You're hunting over food sources, and all you're going to do if you hunt the morning is push deer off of those food sources. It's not only going to be unproductive in the morning, but it's a good chance that you're going to booger those sites for the afternoon. I don't think it really hit home for me just how bad the conditions were until we got out there and unloaded the mule. It was sloppy, and part of the reason why we were taking the mule out there is that Matt felt it would be better than us sloshing our way into the stand on foot. I think if we would have tried to do that, I mean, we were hunting relatively close to the bedding area. I think we would have put every deer in that area on alert. You know, they're used to hearing that mule go in and out.
Late muzzleloader, as far as seeing good bucks, is probably, in my opinion, in Iowa, the best time to come hunt the state, because, again, those bucks are looking for food. They're not going to be as nocturnal because they have to come in and eat. So I made that suggestion to those guys, and really you can typically draw about every other year for late muzzleloader. So they said, yeah, absolutely. We both own muzzleloaders. We'll come and we'll give it a shot.
I think it was probably about 2 o'clock by the time we got set up when we were ready for business. And it was probably less than an hour when the deer started popping out. There was a cut cornfield behind us. There was probably a dozen deer milling around back there. And then predictably, we had deer start filtering in from the south, from that gnarly bedding area. And by now, it's raining really hard. And that had me a little bit worried, because the rain was making a lot of noise off the blind.
When we return,
I could see that she was a little nervous, and she finally just backed out of there and worked her way out. And I was just basically watching her walk away, and I caught movement out of the right window, just out of the corner of my eye, and I looked over and I go, holy crap. I mean, just big as life, there was this huge buck just standing there.
This is Deer and Deer Hunting. This segment of Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Matthews. Welcome back to Deer and Deer Hunting, where Gordy Krahn has a much coveted Iowa muzzleloader tag. It's just after Christmas, and he's hoping for a gift-wrapped buck. The conditions, however, are not in his favor so far, with rain and warmer temps.
We had a doe and a couple fawns come out, and by now it's raining really hard. And that had me a little bit worried because the rain was making a lot of noise off the blind. And in fact, the doe, she kept looking over at us, and I think it was that noise off the blind that had her attention. And I could see that she was a little nervous, and she finally just backed out of there and worked her way out. And I was just basically watching her walk away, and I caught movement out of the right window, just out of the corner of my eye, and I looked over and I go, holy crap. I mean, just big as life, there was this huge buck just standing there. I just heard that bullet thump home, and I saw him go down. And it was really emotional. You know, I've shot a lot of deer, but for some reason, this one really hit home just because, you know, it happened so quickly and so unexpectedly. I think that was the biggest part of it. I just wasn't really ready emotionally for this all to happen. And it was just one of the greatest feelings to watch that buck go down in a pile.
We also had another friend hunting with us. His name's Bart Lansford, and I really wasn't expecting much to happen. And then all of a sudden, I get a text from Bart that Bart says, I've shot a deer, can you come get me? I'm on my way to that farm, and I get another text, not 45 minutes later, from Gordy saying, deer down, we're done, come get us. And so in the span of literally 45 minutes on a day with the worst conditions you could have to late muzzleloader hunt, had 2 great deer down.
Oh my God, look at that. Oh man, what a cool looking buck. Look at all that character. December 27th buck, Christmas buck. Really, it's close enough to Christmas. Look at that.
You know, when I got especially the second text from Gordy, you know, the first thing I thought of is that kind of pisses me off. I was kind of wanting to shoot those deer myself, but.
He was bigger than I thought. He was funkier than I thought. I mean, this is what this late muzzleloader season is all about here in Iowa. I mean, you still got bucks on the move. They're moving for different reasons now. It's late season, they're trying to put some weight back on, so you just gotta hunt the food sources, and that's what we're doing. I mean, this was a 150-inch deer. I don't shoot a lot of 150-inch deer, and this was my first Iowa muzzleloader kill too, so, you know, there's just a lot of emotion going through me. You know, Matt, your wall of shame here is really a testament to the quality of the deer here in southern Iowa. I mean, we all know it takes good genetics, takes good habitat, it takes good food sources, but really what it takes is you need to let these deer age. And in Iowa, a big part of that is the tradition of not having center fire rifle season, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I actually tried to find out why we don't have it.
Yeah.
You know, what people would always say is because of close proximity to where people live, and so we didn't want to have a rifle season going on. But what I found is that's not even actually true. It's really more centered, and maybe it was true at one time, but the tradition stays the same because I think the state's figured out that's a great way to be able to manage the deer herd and be able to let deer get to a point where they can get of a certain age. And not only is there not a centerfire rifle season, but the only weapon you can use during the rut is a bow.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. So that's even another strike in favor of getting these bucks to 4.5, 5.5, 6.5 years old.
That's right. Gun season only happens typically post-rut. That's the only time any kind of gun, whether it's a shotgun or a muzzleloader.
Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Thompson Center, America's master gunmakers. Sever broadheads straight through it. And by Cuddyback. CuddyLink, 16 cameras, one cell plan, $10 per month. Tired of checking trail cams? When we return, Gordy Krahn runs down a solution for eliminating some of the boot leather required to cover your ground. When Deer and Deer Hunting returns.
You know, most of it, when it comes right down to it, we've got small pieces of property to hunt on. Most of us don't have hundreds of acres. This is a good example here. I'm going to be hunting with a buddy of mine who owns 30 acres here. I'm just outside of town. It's a great little piece of property though. If you have the right property, you don't need a lot of property. This is a transitional zone. He's got some food plots, catch the deer coming from bedding areas into here to some agricultural fields. So small piece of acreage, but very productive for deer. Now what we want to do is monitor what the deer are doing coming through here. Kyle hasn't owned this land a long time, but he's had trail cameras out and he's picked up some good deer activity. Now what we're going to do today is we're going to set up a CuddyLink system. It's just going to increase our ability to really monitor this property without being intrusive. If you're not familiar with the CuddyLink system, basically it's a wireless network that it links a series of cameras together, and the remote cameras will all give the images back to the home camera. Kyle and I came in and set up the home camera a few nights ago. This one's all programmed and ready to go. What we're going to do today is we're going to set up the remote cameras. Now this isn't an instructional on how to set up the cameras. I want to talk more about how we're going to utilize 4 cameras to get the most surveillance we can out of this property. For the technical stuff, you're gonna have to do what I did. Just read the instructions, watch the videos. They're very easy to set up. Now with the CuddyLink system, you can have up to 15 remotes. What we've got is the 4-pack. So what that's gonna give us is the home camera and 3 remotes, and that should be plenty to cover this 30 acres. Okay, I've got the home camera set up. I've got this remote programmed. Now these are going to be linked wirelessly, and I can monitor the signal on this camera as I walk to the next location, and just to make sure I've got a good powerful signal from the first remote camera to the home cameras. All right, let's go set this one up. Okay, I've programmed this CuddyLink as a remote number 2. Now my home camera's down that way. It's going to be sending its images to that home camera. Now Kyle and I picked out this place because it's basically a transition zone from where the deer come up over that hill. There's a swamp and a big woods. They come down through here and they hit this food plot here. Kyle's got a food plot. Still needs some work this year. It's just starting to come up. They'll come down in here, you know, late afternoon, and they work their way through. And out on the other side, there's an agricultural field. So a very good funnel point, and that's why we picked this location. And we'll be able to monitor this transition zone. So now all I've got to do is arm this camera. I'm getting the signal between the home camera and this remote number 2, and then we'll program the next one and move on to remote number 3. Okay, this one is programmed as remote number 3. Got it written right here, number 3. Once again, I monitored the signal from the last remote camera to make sure I've got a good signal from that camera to this camera. We're creating a daisy chain of cameras so we can really extend our range. Now we picked this location because there's an apple tree here, there's a pond over here, so there's a water source, and then there's a transition zone, kind of a funnel where they come off of a big agricultural field and funnel down through here and out the property this way. So it's very secluded back here. The deer feel very safe back here. That's why we chose this location. Now, one problem we ran into here, there's really no suitable trees for a tree stand. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to brush out this area and we're going to put a pop-up blind in there. So this camera here, remote number 3, will monitor where we're going to have this pop-up blind and give us a good indication of deer traffic through here. Now Kyle and I worked long and hard to find a place for remote camera number 4. We're on the far end of the property, and this is the area that we would envision deer coming onto the property. Now the problem is it's really choked up with brush and stuff, and I think the deer just kind of come in wherever they want. But we've got a little bit of work to do, but I think if we brush out this corridor a little bit here, I think it would funnel deer down through here and onto the property and on down to those water sources and those food sources that we looked at earlier. We've got all the cameras now, all 3 of these remote cameras linked back to that home camera. So we don't have to come out here again except to hunt. We just go pull the card out of that home camera and we can check the images on all of these cameras. And that's the beauty of this CuddyLink system. It's very unintrusive. You don't have to set foot on the property once you get the cameras set up. Okay, that should do it. Now on my way out, I'm gonna pull off all these ribbons. Even though this is private property, I don't want to advertise where these cameras are. And it's just as easy as that. We've got a small piece of property, we've got 4 cameras set up, and I'm pretty confident, we did enough groundwork here that we'll probably get images of nearly every deer that sets foot on this property. And with the CuddyLink system, it's just that much easier because we don't have to come in here and check these cameras.
Hi, I'm Dan Schmidt. For more tips, strategies, and hunting action, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for watching Deer and Deer Hunting TV.